One of the first things that my brothers and I learned when we came to this country was that our parents were getting divorced. My mother was living on a tiny studio apartment in Uptown, and my father had an apartment of his own somewhere in Humboldt Park. So a couple of weeks after we came to this country, our dad came to pick us up so we could spend a weekend with him. Now, I will never forget the first time that I walked into my dad's apartment. In the kitchen, there were an array of glasses and cups that were one completely different to the other one. The dining room table had four mismatched chairs, as if he had his friends to come over for a poker game, and every friend had brought a chair from their house and left it at his apartment. The living room was the worst part of the mishmash apartment. In the middle of the living room, there was a dark imitation leather sofa. Next to it was a wooden chair from like a picnic. And on the other side, there was a plastic long chair. In the middle of the room, a stained Persian rug that did nothing at all to bring the room together. When I asked my father why everything in his apartment was so mismatched, he responded, because in this country, you don't have to buy any furniture. You could just go to an alley and you find sofas, and you find chairs, and you find glassware. Like he told me, and if you can't find it on the alley, you could find it on a thrift store. But most of the stuff that I found here, I found it in the alley. And then he went and recounted all his adventures and recounted how he had found every single item in his living room in the alleys. Forget the fact that they didn't match one another. He was happy with his apartment. Now, my mother's apartment didn't have mismatched furniture because after living on Uptown for a couple of weeks, she had found an apartment on Old Irving Park. And she had been able to convince one of her co-workers that was going back to Mexico to leave all the furniture in the apartment. So when we moved to the apartment, it had furniture on it. All furniture. Like the beds had some wooden planks across it, and if you move a little bit too much, the planks fell and your bed fell on the floor. Some of the dresses, when you open them, stay open. Some of them, the drawers will fall off. Some of them, the handle for the drawer will come off, and you held it in your hand, and the drawer was still closed. But the worst part was the living room chairs, the dining room chairs, because although they look nice, when you sat on them, you got all the nails poking into your ass. So for days, I would go out into the neighborhood and go into the alleys looking for chairs to replace the ones that we had. But I could never find anything. When I started going to school, on my way back from school, instead of walking on the streets like a normal kid, I would walk in the alleys looking for chairs that I could replace those chairs that could poke in my ass every time that I sat on them. But I could never find anything. I told myself, I'm not lucky like my dad is because I can never find anything. Then winter started, and with winter, the snow started, and the alleys started to be full of snow, so I couldn't walk in the alleys anymore. So I told myself, I'm not going to find any chairs until the winter is over because nobody's putting anything out there, and I don't want to go out there with all this snow. So one day after a terrible snowstorm, there was still a lot of snow all over the place. I couldn't walk in the alley, so I was walking on the streets when suddenly, in front of a house, I saw four nice chairs laying in front of a house, and I'm like, oh God, Somebody knows that you're supposed to pick up the furniture from the alleys, but they didn't want to go throw it in the alley because they know nobody's going to go to the alley. So they were nice enough to put it out here on the front. So I look at the chairs and I put it one on top of the other one, and I tried to carry them, but they were too heavy with my book bag. So I took off my book bag and I put it next to a tree on the other side of the street. Then I went back and I carried the chairs home. I was really happy with the chairs. I went to the house and I took out the old chairs and I put them in the porch, and I put the new chairs in the dining room. I cleaned them up a little bit and I put them in the dining room, and then I remember, oh, my book bag. So I ran back to get my book bag. When I got there was a commotion going on. There was a police car, and there were two officers that were trying to separate a group of people that were trying to fight. I couldn't speak that much English, but I could see that they were fighting for something. It turns out that one of the people had placed some furniture on the street to have dips for the parking space. And now this other car was trying to park, and the people were complaining that those people trying to park had thrown away the chairs. So a police officer came over when he saw me on the other side of the street, and he started asking me, and he explained me what was going on. He was the one to explain me everything. And he started asking me if I had seen everything. And I'm trying to understand what he was saying, and I go like, this is problems for me. So of course I say, me no speak English. And they say, oh, no te preocupes, yo soy boricua, yo te hablo. He could speak Spanish, so he started to explain me everything. I'm like, oh God. Because I had come from Guatemala. It's a terrible country where you don't talk to the police. If you see anything, you don't tell the police. And if you did anything, you don't tell the police. So I'm started to trembling, thinking they're going to put me in jail because I stole those shirts. I didn't know, but I stole the shirts. And just as I'm about to say something, the people that had the dips for the parking space, and the people that were trying to park started to throw punches at one another, and the police officer went over to separate them, and I went home running. I got home and I closed the door, and I look at the chairs. I'm like, okay, they're nice. I hope I don't get in trouble. And just as I'm thinking this, I heard knocks on the back door. I'm like, oh God, that's the police. They saw me running, and they probably saw what or maybe it's the people that own the shares. They're going to pick me up. I'm like, okay, I got to open the door anyway. I got to see what it is. I opened the door, and he was my dad. And he's looking at the chairs that are in the porch, and he comes inside and he looks at the chairs that are in the dining room, and he looks at me, and I'm about to explain him all the trouble that I went through. I'm about to explain him that those are stolen deeds from a Chicago parking space. And he says, you found them in the alley, right? I go like, yeah, Daddy, I found them in the alley. I was having a little meeting with every storyteller, with all the storytellers upstairs, and I was telling them how amazing this is for me, how amazing it is. I came to this country undocumented. I used to stutter. I couldn't speak English, not only because I couldn't stutter, because I didn't know any English. So I never even imagined that I was going to be on a stage, that I was going to be in front of an audience sharing stories. And I never imagined that I was going to be able to put a show together for immigration stories. When I went to school, I didn't have anybody who was an immigrant that came and told stories. I didn't have anybody who came and say, I came to this country undocumented. That was unheard of. So to be able to put this show together and to be able to have all these people, all these amazing storytellers work with me and give their time and their talent is an honor for me to be able to do this. And I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. And I'm so grateful to everyone that came to watch our show. So can we have all the storytellers come and just take a bow together? Could everybody come here? And if anybody could please take a couple of pictures, I would appreciate it.